This is an oral history interview with Elmer J. Manson of 1740 Wellington Road in Lansing, Michigan. The recording was made by Jim Walkinshaw on November 15th, 1989 at the Oldsmobile History Center at 4000 North Grand River, Lansing. This is tape number 1 of 2 tapes. The tapes were made in conjunction with a program by the Lansing Regional Chamber of Commerce, the REO's Transportation Museum, and the Lansing Public Library called The Voices of Lansing. Well, Elmer, if we could just start with your name and your address and your phone number, please.
I'm Elmer Manson. I live at 1740 Wellington Road here in Lansing. I have an office at 1209 East Kalamazoo. And do you want a phone number?
Yeah, sure. Both places if you will.
Okay. The office is 372-2191.
Okay.
And the home is 484-5023.
Okay, very good.
You won't find me at home much.
That's all right. That's okay. Why don't, just for the tape's purpose, take us back to when were you born?
I was born in Malone, New York, which is in the upper part of New York State, right along the Canadian border.
Okay.
May 27, 1913.
All right.
That's one date I can remember.
That's right. Very good. Now, you came to Lansing when?
I came to Lansing in 1946.
All right.
I had just finished a tour of duty with the military at that time in the field artillery.
All right.
And I had had an architectural office in northern New York, but northern New York was something like the UP in Michigan.
Oh, yes.
And it was not exactly a fertile field for architecture. And so we decided that we should make a move. And one of my former classmates from Cornell University, Mal Williams, was with the Warren S. Holmes Architectural Office. And so he had written to Marie, my wife, asking that I come for an interview here before I made any permanent relocation. We liked it here. So we came, and I worked for them for 2 years. They wanted me to go down to Hammond, Indiana, and run a branch office for them.
Oh, interesting.
And I asked a few questions about Hammond, Indiana, and we decided that we would rather stay in Lansing, Michigan.
Okay.
And feeling that lightning does not strike twice in the same place, we decided if I had refused the Holmes Company of a promotion, they thought it was a promotion, that I should open my own office. And Lansing has been very, very kind to us in these intervening years.
Yes.
So that's how I got to Lansing.
Okay. And you had taken your architectural work at Cornell, you mentioned.
Yes.
And when did that all happen?
Well, Cornell architecture is a 5-year course.
All right.
I had a state scholarship for 4 years. So when the 5th year came along, I didn't have money enough to go back to school, nor did my parents. So my sister loaned me some money, and I went to Europe.
Oh.
That was only for about 6 weeks.
Okay.
Then I got a job in the aluminum company at Messina, and I earned enough money to go back to school. So I actually got my bachelor's degree in architecture in 1937.
All right.
Then Marie got an opportunity to instruct in the practice teaching school at Cornell during the year of 1940. Those were pretty tough years for architects.
Sure.
So
still part of the Depression.
Yes, and the building industry had not recovered. There was an upswing about that time. Anyway, being in as I was unemployed at that time, I went back to at Cornell, got my master's degree in architecture, and I was really quite surprised when my thesis was awarded the Charles Goodwin Sands Medal for design.
Very good.
So I was I was very pleased and quite impressed. I don't think it helped me a bit, but it was something I could hang on the wall.
Now, were you and Marie married at that time while you were going to school?
Let me see. I graduated in June of '37 without a job.
Okay.
In July of that year, I got a job, and we were married on July 24th.
All right.
So we were married.
Busy summer.
Yeah. We went, when I went back from my master's, we were married.
Okay. All right. Well, let's come to the Lansing part of it then, now that we understand your background a little bit. What were some of the things which you did as an early architect here in Lansing?
Well, let me see. Maybe I should talk not about the architectural aspects of it, but some of the other things which I did, which kind of got me started on the way. There was an article in the paper at that time that the Board of Water and Light were interested in the economic development of the Lansing area. So having taken my master's degree in planning at Cornell, I wrote a letter to Hub Bates, who was chairman of the committee, saying that I would be glad to help wherever I might. So obviously I was invited to join the committee. That was a very, very interesting thing. Eckert, who was general manager of the Board of Water and Light, was a very supportive member in that committee. And so that worked out that Ken Welch, who was a shopping center consultant and planner from Grand Rapids, and I got to know Ken quite well after that. And he was a pretty sharp guy. Anyway, he was retained to do the development plan for Lansing. And of course, when I got involved in that, there also was a strong suggestion that I become a member of the Chamber of Commerce.
Okay.
So
when was all this happening?
I assume this would have been about 1948.
All right. Very shortly after you came then.
Sure. I worked home for 2 years.
Yeah.
I put out my shingle, and to read this into the record, a great many people around town remember Bill Carver. He had been a classmate of mine at Cornell. He had been a partner in the architectural office that we had in Messina. And so he was just getting back from the Navy, and I wrote asking if he'd like to join me. So he came, we formed Manson and Carver, and a great many people around town seem to remember that. So does that answer your question?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, keep chugging along there. Now, you started then with the chamber in that activity on the power company.
Yes.
And what other kinds of things were going on in the city at that time, Elmer, that you were dealing with? You must have been doing more than just working with the chamber, obviously.
Yes. As I said, Lansing was kind to us. When I formed the office, my projections were that if I could do 10 or 15 houses a year, I'd be able to pay the groceries.
Mm-hmm.
And let me see, the first week that I had the office, I put the usual announcement in the State Journal. Monday morning I got a call from the Methodist Church in Williamston. They wanted an addition, and within 10 days Joe Atwood from the North School District came in, and they were going to do a 4-room addition to a school out there.
Mm-hmm.
So I never did do very many residential. It has been mostly institutional, commercial, a fair amount of work for General Motors, so I guess that would be industrial. So we had quite a general practice.
Okay. So the kind of the first things that you remember were doing something on the North School?
Right.
Okay, and out in Williamston on the church?
Yes.
Okay.
I remember the North School because Bill Clapp at that time was the person in the State Education Department that reviewed plans.
Mm-hmm.
And he was very gung-ho on bilateral lighting. And so we had light coming in from a clear story over the corridor, and we had baffles to keep the direct light off the kids in the schoolroom.
Mm-hmm.
And Bill was very pleased with that. Also, concentric ring electrical fixtures, which would use a silver bowl light that reflected the light up to the ceiling, and it gave excellent illumination for the children. But it was also extremely expensive because the light went up to the ceiling and a good share of it stuck there and never came back down. It got lost. And so despite the fact that the State Education Department were quite proud of that building, at least they took a lot of people to see it, within 10 years they had put an acoustical ceiling across, cutting off the bilateral lighting, and they had plain old fluorescent fixtures. So that's the way progress is done.
Sure. But Elmer, you must have, as time went along there, how did you change from an organization standpoint? How did your company, quote, change?
That was a case of slow growth, for which probably I should be thankful for, because we worked from a workforce of 4 or 5 when we moved down to North Washington, about 519 North Washington. That must have been 1950 or thereabouts.
That was your second?
That was the second
Where
office.
was your first office?
In our home at 410 West Saginaw.
All right.
And I can remember the day that Vic Lair, who was at that time the director of planning for the city of Lansing, and he rang our doorbell, and I answered the door, and of course I knew him, and he asked if he could come in. He looked around, and the lower level was pretty well filled with crafting tables. Marie had withdrawn to the second floor, and he says, "Elmer, it looks to me like you're in violation of the zoning regulations."
Caught.
Yep, I was caught. So I said, "Well, we'll do what we can about it, Vic. Rather than issuing a summons, would you give me a little time to work it out?" And so we looked for a building, and we converted a house at 519 North Washington that is now part of the campus of LCC.
The house still stands?
No, that was torn down.
It was torn down.
Yep.
All right.
So that was the second office.
Okay.
The third office was the Cherry Street School. Ed Boehm, the realtor, arranged the sale for us, and or the purchase, I should say. And it was only sometime later that I found out of all the people that had looked at that building and decided they couldn't use it. And the Board of Education was about to tear it down when we came in with an offer, and I think we bought the whole kit and caboodle for $35,000, which of course we didn't have.
Yeah.
But the Chrisman Company, Harry Conrad, somehow or another had faith in us, and he arranged a loan so that we could do a pretty fair job of converting the school into an office. And that was a real good move for us because in a relatively short time our workforce had increased to 25, 30. I don't think we ever had more than 35 people.
Had you had that many at the house there on?
Oh no, the house would only take care of 10 or 12.
Okay. When did you go to the schoolhouse?
I think it was about 1958.
Okay. Why did
1958 was a great year for us because we moved the office, and Marie and I decided that if we were going to give our kids the benefit of a European tour, we should do it while Joyce was still in high school. So surreptitiously, we planned for 10 months in Europe, 10 weeks in Europe. And I was afraid that if we made a public announcement of it, that clients might question it. So it wasn't until we had everything in line and probably a month before we left that we finally told people that we were going to be gone for 10 months. It was simple. We put another mortgage on the house and took off.
But you had a staff that could carry
Oh yes,
on.
sure.
Yeah.
Ed Jackson was coming along very well at that time.
When did you change, Elmer, from what I'll call the little partnership when you started, and to the Manson, Jackson, and Kane organization that I was aware of?
At first, of course, we were a partnership. After we had, let me see, Ed Jackson joined us real early. Bill Kane came along. There was a fellow by the name of Dixon Wilson. At one time, his name was part of the firm name.
Was this at the house then on Michigan Avenue? Or Washington?
This was in Washington.
Washington Avenue?
It was Manson, Jackson, Wilson, and Kane. One of our clients said it kind of sounds like running a stick up and down a picket fence. So I think, let me think a minute here,
okay.
Because I believe that we formed MJK as a corporation in 1961.
All right.
And
this was actually after you moved into the schoolhouse then?
oh yes, yes.
All right.
And so the firm name was established, and as our staff grew in abilities, we would appoint them to the board.
Okay.
And at one time, I think we had 12 members of the board, which was practically all of the registered architects.
I see.
So that.
But prior to that time, it had been still a partnership, basically,
Yep.
with the main
right.
participants. Okay.
I don't know what the difference is, but now folks call themselves professional corporations, and I think we were just a plain old corporation. Right. I know we paid taxes.
I'm sure you did. Why did you go to the schoolhouse, Elmer? What was the driving force there? Why did you pick that place?
Well, one of the things which we had as a criteria was to stay in the inner city. I don't want to exactly say downtown, but in those days the Central Business District was the place to be with business.
Okay.
And so we wanted to be relatively close to that, which we were.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes if I had a meeting in City Hall, I would walk to the City Hall rather than drive. And of course the other thing is economic because we could afford it.
Sure.
And we didn't have much money. So, and it was on the market, it was available.
Did you see it as a structure that had some unique architectural features, or what? Was that any part of that decision?
I suppose all of those things have some bearing on it, but we did not particularly choose it because it was good architecture. As a matter of fact, I suppose we violated some of the architecture because the original building had a little projection out in front, which would be a weather vestibule. And we removed the weather vestibule and put a two-story glass window into the stairwell, which I thought neatened it up a bit and gave it a little modern look. And I still think it looks like a nice, pardon me, a nice building there on Cherry Street. And I think it did help improve the what is now called the Cherry Hill neighborhood.
Yes. Yes. What, Elmer, go through maybe some of the, what I'll call major things, activities which your organization worked on in those early years. You mentioned, of course, doing the chamber thing with the powerhouse, but and then the church, of course, and the initial school things. But what kinds of things did you do that you feel were perhaps relatively significant in those early days?
Well, of course, I should mention the professional societies because I think that everyone should contribute a representational amount of time to the benefit of their profession. So I went through the chairs. I was president of the Mid-Michigan chapter of the AIA, and that would have been about 1951, 1952.
And the AIA is?
American Institute of Architects. And then there's another one, the MSA,
Okay.
and that is the Michigan Society of Architects, and I was president of that in 1955.
Okay.
So I have been active. At one time, I was a member of a national public relations committee with meetings in Washington, and I hope I have contributed to the AIA, but I think that I have gotten a lot from the AIA. A lot of good people. And you go to a convention and you listen to the speakers, and then you go and talk with your friends and find out how they're doing and how they're solving the problems that you're facing. So the Institute has been very helpful to me. The other activities, I should mention my wife's activities because I support her and those things, but she has been active in the Lansing Symphony, and she was, I think, president of Pro Symphony, And well, I guess I'll just say she has done a lot in that area. And we have both been interested in the cultural aspects. As a matter of fact, Jim, I might insert something here that as far as the changes that have occurred in the city of Lansing since we came, maybe I can give you an example of
Sure,
that.
that would be helpful.
That the symphony gave their programs in the old Pruden Auditorium
Okay.
until the ceiling started falling in. But in order to fill the seats, they had what they called pop concerts, and so we'd put card tables around and serve refreshments, and so that made a small group take up the entire floor area. But at one time we were running out of chairs, and so I was backstage and I dashed into all the rooms, and there was one lady there in a black dress, and I said, "May I borrow your chair?" And she didn't say anything, so I took it. Imagine my surprise when the concert got underway. She was the featured soloist. I don't remember what her name was.
You had stolen her chair.
I hope she doesn't know who I was. But the symphony was a very low-key thing at that time. So I believe in these intervening years, the cultural enrichment of the city of Lansing has really come a long, long way.
Okay.
If Romeo Tata, the former conductor of the Lansing Symphony, you could see how the symphony spends money now, he'd turn over in his grave. But gee, the symphony has really done well. I give a lot of credit to Sandra Cafe, the manager, but Ted Sondag and others have been really helpful, and I guess you just got to say fundraising and getting people interested in it. And the recent concerts out at Morton Center have been excellent. But,
So that was a thing which over those years then which was here when you came?
yes, but it has developed.
But it has,
What my change is that, let me add another one. I think that Lansing is, well, I'll just say one of the outstanding places in Michigan for the professional theater and also the amateur theater. And I feel real fortunate to have somewhat of a part in that growth and activity, because I haven't done too much with the civic players other than buy tickets and be supportive. But John Peaks and she was Robinson. Anyway, out at the ledges, and they were trying to have a winter program in what was the former Lutheran church out there. The building officials were after them because they did not have proper electrical hookups and all of that stuff. And so I was helpful to them. And concurrent to that time, this idea had been a long time forming, but the idea of, yes, there was the Metro Affairs I guess, committee. Maybe it was an association. Metropolitan Fine Arts Association, yeah. And, oh gee, I should remember who were some of the leaders in that. But I remember talking with Sue Mills, who became president of the Junior League, that really what we should have in Lansing was a Center for the Arts, a more active organization than the Metropolitan Fine Arts Council, because the council members...
Okay, back up a little.
Okay.
The council.
I had been telling you about the Metropolitan Fine Arts Council and Sue Mills,
Right.
who became president of the Junior League. And we had a meeting every week in the conference room of MJK, and Sue and her colleagues, and we'd bring other people in, and we hammered out the Center for the Arts.
When did that all happen?
Oh, gee. That was one of those things that took a long time generating. I believe that it was 1975
All right.
that we actually bought Dan O'Shaughnessy's old Plymouth automobile agency on South Grand, and had the money to convert it to a theater, a foyer for general events, and the Lansing Art Gallery. I was president of the Lansing Art Gallery about that time.
All right.
The Art Gallery takes great pride in claiming that they were the ones who started it, because we were the only group that had any money other than the Junior League. And so we put $1,000 down to get an option on that building.
All right.
And gee, there was a fellow from Rio whose wife did belly dancers, but I can't remember his name. And he and I had a dog and pony show. So we went around, and I believe we raised $100,000. And I believe that the Junior League prepaid rent and this, that, and the other thing, and so they contributed about 20,000 of that. So we should have had 150,000. We started with not enough money, but we were able to get the building, get a theater. I can remember Schmidt, Ian Schmidt's father. Not that that makes an awful lot of difference. They're out in, I think, Tahoe now. But he was the one who pushed through getting those comfortable seats from American Seating. I don't know who he knew over there, but anyway, it was done. And that theater, I think, is one of the very comfortable, both physically, sitting in the seats. And we never did have an acoustical consultant, but it works quite well. It's only 250 seats. But John Peaks and his cohort, John wanted to put the theater on the other diagonal of the building so that it would be, the stage would be over the old grease pits. And John said, wouldn't it be fun to have a hole in the stage and then I could pop up out of that hole. but it didn't work. We put the theater where it would be adjacent to the bump shop. And we never did have money enough to raise a beam in the wall enough to give headroom from backstage to the dressing room. And I think that the headroom is about 5'3". And I saw Carmen Decker the other day, and we were remarking that certainly the Center for the Arts has turned out well. And I said, Carmen, does it still have that bump your head beam? And she says, yes, I still have bumps on my head. But anyway, the cultural aspects, I think, have benefited Lansing. At that time, we had some friends in Midland. He was a chemical engineer. And they said that one of the things that had persuaded them to accept a position in Midland was because the cultural activities that occurred in the community. And I am quite sure that the business and industry in Lansing have found it easier to attract qualified personnel because of the cultural enrichment that exists in the community today. So, what's your next question? I don't know whether I answered that one adequately.
Right. Well, that's good. Take me through some of the things which MJK would have done. Some of the, what I call major renovations, buildings, constructions, things which you remember that were kind of unique.
Jim, I'm afraid I'm a fellow that would much prefer to look to the future than in the past.
Well, but you have to talk about those things.
Yeah, okay.
A little bit.
As I say, for General Motors, we did a number of the smaller projects that didn't go to Detroit, and they would comprise anywhere from 20 to 50% of the work in the office. We were fairly successful in schools. At that time, there was a lot of schools being built, and I guess we got our share, at least for several years. We were one of the 5 or 6 top school architects, as rated by the Michigan Education Department, I might say, not the Architectural Association. But anyway, we were up in there for a number of years, and I think that eventually they just stopped issuing that list.
Any schools locally here, Elmer?
Oh yes, we did the Gardner Junior High on the south side of town.
Sure.
Willow Street School comes to mind. We never did much for East Lansing, but we did schools in Heartland, Alpena.
College, MSU?
Oh yes. We did all married student housing at MSU.
All right.
And I think it's still true that MJK did more buildings on the MSU campus than any other architect.
All right.
Now, of course, the buildings that we did were quite small, but there was a large number of them. And we did the food stores. We did a little building, Wilson Hall, in back of the International Center. Let me see. We were never a front runner at MSU, but we did a fair amount of work for them.
If you were to think back over all the projects and things you worked on, would you have any one that would really come to mind as the most unique that you did?
Oh, gee.
Or is that a...
Well, we're proud of all of them.
Sure.
I'm thinking of the churches that we
Sure.
have done.
Which churches had you done some work with, Elmer?
Most recently, let me give you a general figure first.
Okay.
Out of the 30 or 35 years, we have done 35 major church projects.
Mm-hmm.
And I put it that way because adding a couple of classrooms or converting this, that, and the other thing really doesn't count as a major project. But Pilgrim Congregational Church on Pennsylvania Avenue here in town was one of our first church jobs. Repeat clients are always nice to have, and I said that the Methodist Church in Williamston was one of the first clients that I had, and I was called back on 2 different occasions to do additions to that building. So yeah, that was nice. Let me see. We did the original building for the Okemos Community Church. We did the Eastminster Presbyterian Church, and one of the side lights on that Norm Iper was chairman of the committee, and there was a fellow, maybe it was Kermit Olds from Oldsmobile, and Kermit had everything in order, just like they do down at General Motors. And he had Norm all primed. Norm would say, do we agree to this, do we agree to that? And somebody in the back row said, oh, come on, Norm, we know what you're heading up to. I move that we approve the plans that Elmer has submitted, and that was that. At the time of the dedication, they gave me a list of adjectives that they wanted the church to be, and included in that was warm, inviting, and so on, worshipful, and it was up to me to convert some of those abstract adjectives into, I don't want to say a concrete building, but a real building.
Sure.
So we talked, and wood beams for economy, a cathedral-type ceiling, etc., etc. And one of the members of the church said that they came to church for the dedication service, and their daughter looked around and said, Mother, wouldn't this be a beautiful ski lodge? Oh, well, so it goes.
Well, you did accomplish that.
Yep. It was warm, it was inviting.
Yeah, sure was.
She liked it, and so I guess that's the important thing. Just recently, our own church, the Central United Methodist Church, has done a major refurbishing program to convert it back to the way it was pre-1955. And that was a historical thing. We got black and white photographs of the decoration and silver lead, which is now we in Lansing take that silver lead paint and think nothing of it. But I was talking with Dave O'Leary, and he said, my friends in the paint industry said, what do you mean by having lead paint as your company name? Lead is poisonous. For a long time, Dave said, well, people in Lansing buy it. And I'm sure that they didn't have any lead in the paint that they sold.
Right.
So eventually they changed their name, and the conversion is now on way to be O'Leary paint. But now I think it was silver lead that did the ceiling in the Bank of Lansing building, which is a very nice job. So we selected them to help us on the historic refurbishing of Central United Methodist. We had the black and white photograph, so they corrected the photograph for the perspective of the camera looking up at it. They enlarged it so that from a wee little photograph to full size, and the decoration looked pretty good. So all we had to do was sharpen up the image and make sure that the emphasis of that fuzzy design was similar to the one which we could see in the photograph. And then it was a question of selecting the colors. And we did not do it very scientifically, I know, but we tried to chip paint off, and we couldn't find what the original colors were. So we went over to the state capitol that was doing the fourth floor at that time, and incidentally, the architect for the church was Elijah Myers, and he was the architect for the state capitol. So we looked at the colors there, and we went down to Ingham County Courthouse, and we thumbed through books and all that sort of stuff. And then you have to make that personal selection, because the colors that you want to go together, it's when you get them all laid out on the table, and then you sort the ones that will look good. And when the congregation first saw it, they were a little surprised at the sharp green. And so it had been there for a month or 6 weeks, and I asked Sid Short, our pastor, whether we should consider changing the green. And he said, "Oh goodness, no," because I mentioned that to somebody and they said, "Oh, don't change the green." So apparently the more vibrant colors, which really are in very small quantities, and we had some guests with us at church recently, and the lady said, "Elmer, this is beautiful." So I guess that's the way it works out. Anyway, we've had a lot of fun. Jim,
oh, go ahead.
Before we I don't know how our time is doing.
Your time is our time.
But there's a whole other series of things which you ask the question of what have the developments been in Lansing?
Right.
And there's a group there of the penetrating Route 496. The Capitol complex, of which the State Heritage Center, the Library, the Museum, and the Archives has just been complete. And the general economic development of the downtown area, I think, has been a major thing. And I was fortunate to be, let me add urban renewal to that list too. I was fortunate to be in a position to be a technician somewhat behind the scenes for much of that. I was chairman of the Metro Affairs, the Highway Committee. It kept changing its name and changing the personnel, but always carrying on what would be best for Lansing. And,
This is part of the chamber.
as part of the chamber.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, I was a member of the planning board at that time, so part of it came through the city too.
Okay.
Let's talk about urban renewal.
Sure.
Mac Milks was a member of the council. I was on the urban renewal committee of the planning board before there was an urban renewal board.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, Ray Guernsey was the director of the planning department. So among the things we did was to plan a tour. We went down to Columbus, Ohio, and we looked at one of the early pedestrian walls, and we went on to Cleveland and looked at Erie View. A classmate of mine was happened to be head of their he was not exactly director of the planning department, but he was a key player of the urban renewal that they were doing. And I'm not sure of this, but I think that the Kalamazoo Mall had been done at that time, so we went over to take a look at that.
Okay.
So we did quite a bit of research on that.
This would have been in the 50s, Elmer? When would this have been?
I would assume so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, let me see. If I was on the planning board from, that would have been about 61 to 65. I had a 4-year term. The mayor called me up, wanted me to run again, and I said, I think that it was Bowerman at that time.
Yeah.
And I said, Bill, that is such a prestigious position that it should be passed around. So after my 4 years, I passed it on to somebody else. So
Okay, go back to your...
when I was a member of the planning board, Mac was a member of the council, and we did an awful lot of work together. He was the front man, and I listened and gave him the technical support that he needed. We almost had Hudson's convinced to come to downtown Lansing.
Interesting.
And I think their contact man was a fellow by the name of Carpenter. And he had told Mac that they would like to know that they would be received in a friendly manner by the other merchants.
Mm-hmm.
So Mac and I went to see Howard Grimes, who was then president of the Knapp store.
Mm-hmm.
And Howard was practically jumping up and down because it would be the question of who had what lines. And Knapp's was a style leader in Lansing, and they had exclusive lines, and if Hudson's came in, that Knapp's might lose their exclusive lines. And I can remember we finally got him down to the point, well, it might be all right in 10 years, but not now.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
And so I don't know whether that was the key point or not, but we never did get
The support just wasn't there.
Huh?
The support was not there.
That's right. That's right. We could not go down and say that they would have the friendly support of the other merchants, which was too bad.
Yeah.
We formed the Urban Renewal Board. I'm trying to recall what preceded that because it took quite a bit of work on the part of the city. I guess I just can't remember. Anyway, we retained, or that is, the city retained the firm of Villick and Lehman, planners from Detroit, and they did a pretty good study of what could be done with urban renewal, the economic impact on the area and so on. And that was the basis for the Urban Renewal Board. And I think that we got some support, although it was very quiet, from the Lansing Community College, because I think that Phil Gannon, in his own mind, felt that the community college downtown would be good for the college, and it would also be good for the community. And that was quite a struggle because the Ingham Intermediate School District had some land out near Mason that they would have made available for the community college if it would locate there. And after the decision was made to locate downtown, the Ingham Intermediate Board came to MJK, and we designed a skills center for that same site out there. Yeah.
Very good.
And I was trying to think of some of the other things that went along with the development of the urban renewal. Well, let me stick this one in now. That, the Broadway lunch, Mrs. Lewis.
Okay.
And if there ever was a miscarriage of justice, it was Don Reisig saying that poor Mrs. Lewis, she forgot a meeting and she just wasn't able to get there, and therefore he ruled that she should have another chance. I think it was the Urban Renewal Board or somebody in the city had a hearing, and she didn't come, and they voted to proceed with the plan.
Okay.
And then Don gave her another chance. Now, the reason that I say that it wasn't poor Mrs. Lewis, because I think this was the planning board. I don't think it was the chamber, but anyway. There was a tempest in a teapot, because Mrs. Lewis had a valid claim. Her building had been appraised for $70,000, about 70. And somehow, when the urban renewal people came through, they appraised it at $50,000. So $20,000 was making the difference of, at that time, I think it was a $15 or $20 million project, and it has now escalated to probably 50, 60 million. But anyway, there were two or three of us that were to meet with Tom Sinus, who at that time was the attorney for Mrs. Lewis. And I was the only one that showed up. Tom showed up, and we were sitting in a dark corner of the Eagle Lunch on the east side of Michigan Avenue. And I said, gee whiz, this is quite unreasonable, because Mrs. Lewis should go along with the city and make the property available. And Tom, being the good attorney which he is, says, Elmer, it's only money. And at that time, we had a group that was, maybe I better not mention names on this, but we thought that if we could raise the 20,000, and we couldn't persuade the urban renewal people or the city that they should augment the 50,000 that had been set to the 70,000 for which I'm sorry, it was the city appraisal, the city assessment on the project. They valued it.
This is an oral history interview with Elmer J. Manson of 1740 Wellington Road in Lansing, Michigan. The recording was made by Jim Walkinshaw on November 15th, 1989 at the Oldsmobile History Center. This is tape number 2 of 2 tapes. Okay, the appraisal.
I'm back to Mrs. Lewis.
Right, and the appraisal.
Yes. And so the committee thought that they had the funds to pay the extra 20,000. And I remember we had a meeting up in the top floor of the Michigan National Bank looking out across the city. And the fellow that said that the money would be available had to say that he was not successful. And so we got together, and there seemed to be no other way that we could come up with the 20,000. So on the basis of that, litigation dragged on it went on and on and on. The night that the Broadway lunch was being demolished, Marie and I had dinner at Jim's, and we came out, and I said, hey, look what's going on. We better go take a look at that. And we drove down and parked. Gary Granger was running the job, and a brick came bouncing down the pavement, hit our car, a very minor scratch, and one of the fellows came over and started talking to me, and I said, that's the guy I want to talk to, is Gary Granger. So Gary came over and looked at it, and he said, put his name down. And so we got the scratch repaired and painted at no cost. And I have saved the brick.
You've got the brick.
Yep. And
that's probably the last brick from the Broadway lunch.
Yep, we have one of the last bricks.
That was on the corner of...
No, it was in the middle of the block.
Oh, okay.
The 100 block
Right
north.
there, just north of...
Yep.
Okay.
But I don't know if there has ever been an analysis. I hope somebody would do it, and I hope I'd be able to get a copy of it. But one of the reasons behind urban renewal was that if you let those old buildings 20 feet wall to wall, 80 to 100 feet, terribly hard to merchandise out of that kind of a space. Now, of course, when we got around to do it, it hasn't turned out to be retail sales. But I am sure that the taxes that have been paid from the development of a higher, and in my opinion, a better use of the property has far exceeded whatever the cost to the city has been. And I think that in a relatively short time, the federal government also, I mean, they were putting in probably 90% of the money. I think probably they'll get their money back too. So that on an economic basis, over a long run, urban renewal has been successful.
What do you think, Elmer, if you look back to the 40s and the 50s, what do you think caused the decline in the downtowns? I call it decline, whatever is
Sure.
the word for that.
That's a reasonable question. And there are sometimes things which really don't make sense, but they happen. I think it was the spirit of suburban growth which came after World War II. And I'll blame it on the automobile industry.
Sure.
Because everybody was on wheels. And I used to argue with the staff at the planning board because they would like to have seen every family have a house on a plot of 150 by 200, roughly 3/4 of an acre. And I said, you guys aren't seeing the big picture, because there will always be those people who would prefer to live in an apartment, who would like to be able to take a bus downtown. I have never said very much about this, but I was a member of the Metropolitan Transit Authority way back when the bus company went, I think they went bankrupt. Anyway, they went out of business. And so the city decided that they should have a bus of one kind or another. And the buses in Lansing had the highest headway of any of the other bus companies in Michigan. And the reason for that is they never had to stop to pick up a passenger. They just kept going. But, and I'm very glad to see CATA in the position which it is. But one of the things that makes it almost impossible to run a good mass transit is because the houses are spread so far apart. Our son lives in London, and of course that's a high density.
Yes.
And my goodness, Fred doesn't have a car. He goes everywhere by either the underground or the bus. I even got so I could read the bus map. But you asked the question about why the diversion, and I think that as people were siphoned off from the downtown area, the shopping malls came in. We did two of the early ones, Edgemont out on the west side of town, and Colonial Village Shopping Center there, and Boston Avenue, Mount Hope. Well, that was a new experience, and people liked it. So they were siphoning off the business activity in the downtown area. And not only that, but it became the popular thing to do. I can remember people going, oh gee, is it the Birchwood Motel out on the west side of town? And folks would book into that rather than the Hotel Olds downtown.
Oh.
Well, those things feed on one another, because I don't mean to pick on the Birchwood, but you look back at that now, and boy, those rooms are, if not substandard, very close to it. They are. I better be careful what I say. All right, I'll say it. They are unable to compete with the Sheraton and the Hilton and so on. But somewhere that the downtown lost its identity. People didn't go there to shop. They didn't go there for entertainment, the movies, the outdoor movie, all of those things. It just took away from the downtown ambience. So there was a lull for probably 10 or 15 years. That was pretty tough on the downtown. And a lot of other downtowns had a similar problem. Well, now you can see that the downtown is coming back, because there's 4 or 5, not exactly skyscrapers, but they're certainly high-rise buildings. Downtown Lansing has a parking problem of severe proportions, which they're taking action to correct. But Lansing has become urbanized. And urbanization is something more than just getting a lot of people together. That people get together for a purpose. There's a good business sense in the downtown area. Outsiders are coming in to establish offices in the capital city. Entertainment is picking up. As I have said, the cultural activities are here. So, in my opinion, Lansing is becoming a urban entity that gives satisfaction to a great many people. Part of this goes, I don't know just exactly where this fitted into the pattern, but at the time that the Riverwalk Theater was planning to come downtown, there was a question of whether they could attract an audience. Well, they have not proven themselves yet, but I don't think there'll be any question, because right now there are enough people in the Lansing area to support a vastly increased number of activities. And whether you call it a critical mass or not, I think that in Lansing we have a number of these things going, which makes for a good community. I am a member of Turner Dodge, the Friends of Turner Dodge.
Okay.
And I'm amazed at the number of people that show up for the special events there. And before that tape runs out, I gotta put in a plug for the Ariel's Transportation Museum.
Should talk about that.
Because that was one of the things, oh my goodness gracious, how long ago was that? Probably the mid-70s. Dick Neller and I had been talking that, a lot of other people had too, that Lansing should have an auto museum in recognition of the accomplishments of R.E. Olds. It was very interesting that at the time that Flint was talking about Auto World, there was one of the automotive historians from Flint had said that Ford got the recognition, but Olds really made the contribution, because Olds really pioneered the interchangeable parts. And today we don't think anything of that. But back in the days of the early days of the automobile, about the turn of the century, that is, start of the 1900s, they could make an automobile and it would run, but the parts all had to be machined so that they would fit together. And I'm not too sharp on this, but I believe it was a fellow by the name of Leland who figured out if they could machine all the parts to be interchangeable, that then you could put a car together and get into volume production. And Olds was able to do that because he had the foresight not only of the mechanical engineering part of it, but also the sales, the publicity, the promotion. And I guess you can say he was a real promoter. The curved dash run from the Pacific to New York City, and it just so happened that the car got there at the time that they were having one of the early automotive shows. And Olds was able to put the production facilities together. He had moved to Detroit, and then there was a fire in a factory there, and just how it happened, but I don't recall. I wasn't there anyway.
You missed that.
And, but people in Lansing said that if he would come and locate on the old fairgrounds, that they'd help him with the factory. I don't know how it happened. Anyway, Olds was able to put more cars together than all the rest of the auto manufacturers together. I don't remember what his production was, not tremendous, but what, 5,000 or 7,000 cars a year for, anyway, 3 or 4 years. And then one of those unfortunate things, in order for expansion, Olds had sold more than 50% of the company, so that he ended up as a minority stockholder. And when the differences of opinion came, push and shove, Olds was pushed out, and then he left Oldsmobile and formed Rio. But I'll carry on just a bit. Olds was a pretty talented individual, and he felt that it was not necessary for him to stay with automobiles, and he drifted off to other things. He had an office in the Hollister building, and I've talked with both John Petroff, the owner of the building. Which office did Olds have? And they don't seem to be able to find out.
Isn't that interesting?
And I also talked with Olds Anderson, grandson, and it just seemed to me as if somewhere kicking around might be Ari Olds' desk. And we have pictures of Ari Olds sitting at his desk, and I think that it would be a marvelous exhibit for the Ari Olds Museum to have Olds' desk and Mr. Olds sitting back of it. We could do a real good thing on that, but nobody seems to be able to find it. So I suppose that it got kicked aside one way or another. I hope that some way it might be found. But anyway, we were talking about the Ari Olds Transportation Museum.
Formation of the museum.
And at that time, the fellow Mike Hoffman, and I think it was still A, B, and T, and he was one of the coming young vice presidents at that time.
Okay.
So it would have been at a meeting of Metro Affairs when we were brainstorming, and I can't remember whether Dick Neller was on that committee or not. I rather think
Part
he
of the
was.
chamber again, though.
This is the chamber committee.
Okay.
And so we said, we were brainstorming on what would make a better Lansing. And so one of the things was we ought to have an auto museum. And Mike says, that's a good idea. Let's research it, and I'll take it to the board. So the concept was approved by the board of the chamber. We had our first meetings in their conference room, and let me see, Mike Seward, who was at that time executive secretary, whatever they called him in those days, of the chamber, was secretary, and Dick Carroll was the treasurer. And I should identify Dick. He is still the director of the Convention Bureau here in town. George Clemison was the first president, and I'm getting ahead of the story because after the necessary groundwork, the decision was to incorporate, and those were the officers of the first corporation. And then it was a question of where could we do it. We had a site committee, of which I was a member, and we looked at all of these sites, and we finally decided that there was the building that had been, shall I say, abandoned by the CATA bus company when they got a new building, and it fitted all the criteria quite well, although it looked horrible. And so the arrangement was made with the city, and I think that George Locken was one of the key people in that negotiation. And the board were all gung-ho, and we'd get together and we'd pull out the weeds and scrub the walls and whatnot. And finally we decided that we could have an opening and show people where the museum was going to be. And it happened on a rainy day. So here we were trying to entertain people, water running down through the roof.
Slight leaking.
That was one of the things, the agreement with the city when we executed the lease, that at the museum expense, a new roof would be added to preserve the city building. So that was a great day, pushing the water over to the drain so that people could walk around and see what the new museum was going to be. I think that the museum has made its contribution to the city. Oh gosh, I can't pick up the attendance, but it's around 15,000 people.
And this would have been,
each year.
Elmer, that's all started about 1980 or thereabouts?
Oh, yes. We're going to come up to our 10th anniversary soon. So if we're moving into the 90s, yeah, about 10 years ago.
Okay. Okay. When did you retire, Elmer, from MJK?
I suppose retirement is
It's
a
all
word that
relative.
could be used. But as I say it, in 1978, I got to be 65, and by prearrangement, they stopped paying me.
Oh, I see. So you must have been by deduction retired, huh?
Well, I stopped going there to work.
Okay.
I like to draw. I like to do things.
So what did you...
Marie didn't want me home for lunch.
Okay.
So I started the firm of Manson Architectural, and for a while I had drafting help, but it got to be a burden. I didn't want to make out all those federal forms and all of this, that, and the other thing. So
Where did you...
I've been primarily a one-person office for the past 12 years.
Where did you go? You moved physically from the old MJK place to a new place, didn't you, at that time?
Oh, yes. And that brings up another item I should be telling you about.
Right.
From 520 Cherry Street, I moved into a space at the Michigan Theater with the Architectural Consortium, that were some fellows that had broken off from MJK. Then from there we moved over to 120 West Ottawa Street, and in that location Jim Perkins had the building, Clarence Rosa and I joined the partnership, and we renovated the building, and along came Bill Rawls, and in the discussion about rental, he said, well, what if we purchased it? And at that time we were glad to get out.
Okay.
And so we sold the building to him. And so I could see the handwriting on the wall. If Rawls had the building, sooner or later they'd need the space. So I moved to the Hollister building, and I had several quite happy years there.
When did do you remember when you moved in there, about?
Oh, 3 years from 77, but
About 80?
1980.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And then last year, I told my wife I'd take no new projects. So my architectural work has been tapering off, and I got an office on East Kalamazoo.
Okay.
And I have a spot where I can do watercolors if I don't need to draw at the present time. The watercolors are not doing very well, but I hope to get back to them soon.
Let me see, Elmer. I was going to ask you about this. This is going to jump back in time a little bit.
Okay.
The Miracle Mile. What
Oh
is
my
the
goodness.
Miracle Mile?
When did you pick that up? Bill Forgrave had a piece of property that's pretty well developed now.
Where is it?
And that was at the South Pennsylvania at Miller Road.
Okay.
That was a fair distance beyond the end of the sewer. And I think that Bill had cost him $25,000 or something like that to get the sewer to it. That was one of those nip and tuck battles with the planning board. And I guess that it was my vote that was the deciding vote to approve the project so that he could proceed with the an office and light industry development.
Okay.
Which I think has been very helpful to the city. And after the vote, when I overheard one of the couple of the planning board members talking, and they were saying that Elmer caved in to help his friend Bill Forgrave, because Bill had been a former client of ours. The thing which they didn't know is that I had talked with Bill. Could I help him on the development? Because I thought that we...
Okay.
You cut me off at
That's
the
all right.
punchline.
I know. So put your punchline in here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're back to the Miracle Mile
Right.
of Bill Forgrave.
Yeah.
And the thing which my planning board members did not know was that I had asked Bill for a commission to help him lay out and develop the thing. And he said no, he was going to go with an architect from Detroit.
So you really didn't have any financial interest?
There was no financial interest of any kind.
Was that the first time, Elmer, that people had tried to do an industrial sort of development like that?
I think that it was the biggest one in the Lansing area.
Okay.
And I think Bill did a good job.
Still exists?
Huh?
It still exists?
Oh, sure. I was out there a while back, and I would assume that at least 75% of the properties have been developed. I was going to say purchased, because oftentimes people buy two lots and save one for expansion and only build on one of them. But that place is pretty well built up, and I think it's a real asset for Lansing.
How did it get its name, the Miracle Mile?
I don't know. I don't think that Bill promoted it. We can attribute that to the media. They have to pick out a good moniker for projects of that kind.
Okay.
So, because it isn't a mile.
Yeah, true. Elmer, if you were to look back over all those years, we've talked about the things which you enjoyed doing most, projects and things. What do you think perhaps might have been the least rewarding thing that happened over all those years?
Oh, gee. You asked the nicest questions.
Well, I know it's kind of an opposite question, but...
Yeah. I think the complete frustration over the cross-campus route at the university.
Okay.
Because the chamber, through its committees, had worked diligently to do that. I get a little confused between that and the 496 penetrator route.
Yeah.
But Ed Boucher was as far as we were concerned, the front man on that project. And he certainly was more than patient. The state spent a considerable amount of money laying out the route, traffic patterns, and all of that sort of thing. And so the do-gooders at the university objected, and they were going on about wetlands. And here's a right-of-way across the campus, 400 or 500 feet wide, and I found it hard to figure out how there could be an awful lot of bird nesting in an area that small. And maybe there were a few, but certainly I doubt if there are very many. And they talked about the noise, and one of the reasons that the cross-campus route followed that layout was because it was adjacent to a railroad track. And I think trains make much more noise than trucks. And oh golly, the details are hard to recall. But anyway, there was to be, I believe, 2 exits for the university. And if you think of the problem that exists now, if you want to get to any place in the university, you get off the expressway and you drive down, you have to make several turns, wandering in and out. It's very difficult to find your destination. And it's equally as difficult from the east. It's a little easier from the east, but nevertheless, you still are traversing the campus, and a lot of pedestrians. It's just a confused situation. The cross-campus route would have alleviated that to no end. Well, the board of trustees at the university held a special hearing. There was, to the best of my knowledge, no limit on the time that people could talk. I think that I was a member of the highway committee at that time. Al Boyd was still there as secretary, and we had put together what we felt was quite a factual statement. I think the reason why the president of the chamber didn't want to go and they left it to me, because I was just a sacrificial lamb, that they had to have somebody out there, because after about half an hour into the hearing, and only people were popping up. They objected to this and they objected to that. And John Hanna was there, and Al leaned over to me and he says, "We don't stand a chance." And we made the presentation as scheduled, and the board did not accept it. And the scuttlebutt that I received from the State Highway Department is that if that was the treatment that they were to receive after all of that cooperation, coordination, and work with Michigan State University, they were crossing that off their list, and they never would spend any money on it.
Oh, wow.
Now, I don't know what has happened between then and now, but buildings are growing on that spot that was reserved for the cross-campus route, and it's, I don't know whether anything can be done to facilitate traffic through and around the campus. I know I used to be good friends with Harold Lautner, and he spent a lot of time on that sort of thing. And Michigan State's a lot better than many of the other campuses, but I still think that as far as frustrations are concerned, that was one of the major ones. And I'll quickly add one other small one. The demolition of the Michigan Theater.
Okay.
Because I was invited to a breakfast meeting with a contractor developer, and when I got there, the developer had his attorney, and when developers start paying attorney's fees, you know that they're pretty serious. So we had a proposal worked out, and I thought it sounded pretty good. And so I went back, and at that time, Tommy Thompson with, another group, had an option somewhat on the theater. And the package that we had with the developer was that the theater would be turned over to DeCapo and certain other spaces that were necessary, and the balance of the building could be used for offices and retail, much the way it is now. And Tommy and his group said, oh no, the whole building should be reserved for art-related groups. Well, from my experience with art-related groups, none of them could afford competitive prices for the space, and so that project went down the tube. When Lutz and Brown bought it, I never was able to talk with them directly. They had done some nice projects in Grand Rapids, in Ann Arbor, and I was hopeful that we could get an audience with them and somehow or another work out something to save the theater. But it was not to happen. So that was another one of the near misses.
On a more positive side, what would you, if you look into the future, Elmer, what would you suggest to people that will be coming behind us as things which might be useful to think about or do?
If anything, there should be a spirit of cooperation, and that's what makes me feel real happy that Terry McCain will be in the mayor's spot for another term, because I guess I can put the burden of my unhappiness on the open meeting law. Because it used to be that the council would meet in the City Club in the hotel on Monday noon, review the agenda, and figure out whatever their differences were. And so the meetings would open, and they run through the agenda, and they were done about 8:30 or so. And then there would be another committee of the whole meeting in their conference room and back. And if we were working on a project, we could informally review it. And they could ask all of the embarrassing questions. And the media was fairly kind to us, because they never got after us too much from statements which were made at the committee of the whole. And if people have an objection, they should be able to state the objection, and nobody laughed at them much, but then the opposition, so that there was a good interchange. Well, the way it is now, the way it seems to me anyway, that they don't have the chance to have that kind of informal discussion. And so now with the TV camera there, everybody wants to make a speech, and if you're an elected official, you've got to support your constituency, and therefore what could be a helpful discussion turns into a political battle. Mm-hmm. And as a result, Lansing gets a bad image. I went to a meeting on the embassy suites. I was not involved in that at all, but I just wanted to go and listen. And in one of the small groups afterwards, happened to be with whatever his name was, who had the franchise for the hotel here in Lansing. So, taking them bear by the horns, if bears have horns, I said, what do you think your chances are in Lansing? And he says, oh, well, he was a little fellow. Mm-hmm. And he said, I used to be taller, but they beat me down so much. And so we chatted, and he said, I've got other places I can go. And so he, regardless of what they say in the news and so on, the city council think that they've got the best thing ever going. And that's not true. Those people who have money to make investments can do it in many different places.
That's true.
This was not our office, it was the colleague's office, but they had worked out a scheme with a prospective client, and everything was going nicely, and they took it to the city council, and Jerry Graves, who was then the mayor, wrote a 2-page letter. We're pleased to have you come to Lansing, but please remember, if you do come, you have to do this, 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 and this. And actually, all he was doing was reiterating what the people already knew, because they can read, and it's in the building code. Mm-hmm. And so the prospective client told my colleague, thank you, but I think we'll spend our money somewhere else. Mm-hmm. So I think that spirit of cooperation is really important, and I hope that Lansing would move toward that. And it's a question of being nice to people, and I think that the city cannot get along without business and industry, And competition is pretty tough for business and industry. And sometimes the city should help the newcomers, even though it may cause added traffic, all those other things that people talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Jim, we've been talking an awful long time.
I know. How you feeling? About done?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I could carry on.
Oh, I know.
But there's a limit to what you
Sure.
can stand.
Yeah. And if there are other things that you want to share, so to speak, why,
We can issue an addendum.
we can issue an addendum. So, correct. Well, I guess
Thank you for inviting
well,
me.
I'm glad you
It's
came,
been a
and
pleasure.
It's been kind of an interesting discussion, and I'll get you to sign off your last little page, and we will be all done.
Okay.
Thanks, Elmer.